Okay, so today representing a tenant, and this is a very good. We're going to be recording this because this is a very good seminar for anyone that is working with tenants or in the future will be working with tenants. And it is a different process than, of course, working with buyers. And when you're working with a tenant, it could be a longer process. It could be more paperwork. It could be a much tougher job representing a tenant. So we're going to go through it. We don't focus on it as much as maybe we should even, because it is a service we provide, but it's of course a service we don't, profit from, both as agents, as a brokerage, but that doesn't mean there's not opportunity there. So that's why we want to put a lot more emphasis, of course, providing great service, working with tenant. We've always done a good job of it. I'm just, to really focus on it and do it well, I think is very important. I'm going to show you why. So let me just move one slide. There we go. So our first slide here, I'm just going to go through the process of representing a tenant because an overview is very important to know all the different components. First of all, when you sit down or when you're going to be showing properties to a tenant, essentially you have to be organized, and everything that you do ahead of time is probably the most important part of representing the tenant. Putting together an offer for them and the paperwork and everything, it'll come naturally, and we'll go through that as well. But the actual process of preparing them is the most important part. So make sure that if you are representing a tenant as you would a buyer, make sure you sit down with them and go through at least an hour or two of the whole process, making sure that everything that needs to be done gets done in the right format, and make sure that you're over servicing them. This is realizing number two, why you're providing that service. So why do we want to represent tenants when we know it's a lot of work and there's a lot to do with the process? And again, monetarily, we don't make a lot of money. Half a month's or 1 month's rent is not a lot of money in a lot of cases. We'll be making 20 times that on a buy. So why are you providing the service? It is, of course, to build your business, to make sure that you're creating advocates. Those advocates are going to give you referrals and future business. I think in general, we should always provide great service, but we have to stay in business doing it. So I've dealt with a lot of agents that have put together 10 or 20 tenant, let's say tenant deals or landlord deals, and they're just not able to stay in the business if they continue doing it. So we do have to realize that we are running a business and we have to do it efficiently. So make sure that if we're representing a tenant, that we are doing it a very, very good job of it, so that future business will come. We do have some help online. The government of Canada has the Landlord Tenant Act, and that there is there to protect tenants as well as landlords. Obviously, everybody says the tenants are more protected, and from a lot of cases that's true. We have to provide affordable housing in Ontario, and we have to make sure that people have a place to stay. So, and making sure they're being dealt with fairly. So this resource and this clickable link we'll bring up later, but it's there for your purpose as well as your tenant's purpose, your client's purpose. So it is a very good website to go for that. We're going to be going through the web forms for all the forms and everything you need in order to put together the process. We've packaged it really well for you, so it's really quite easy to get access to and just follow that process. We have the remarketer service for all our marketing, our CRM newsletters. That is going to be a huge component of your business plan moving forward, because if you're representing somebody, whether it be a landlord, a tenant, or any of your business, you have to remind them and consistently reminding them with good marketing pieces moving forward for the next, however long you're in the business, because that is going to build your business and remind them that you're there for referrals, you're there to, make sure that you're providing great service for them, but also other people that might be looking to buy or sell houses. So let's just start right from the beginning, and all our forms. So any form that you need with regards, and we're going to go through the tenant presentation, but I think it's important that you have access to the forms right away. Because even if you're sitting down with somebody for an hour and going through the process, You need to have, things like the application, things like the landlord tenant or the tenant pamphlet that's mandatory. So things to educate your tenant with. So when you're in web forms, you're going to be creating a transaction, call it tenant lease for whatever property. If you don't have the property yet, because you're just sitting down with them, just say tenant lease, and then you can put their first name, last name, that sort of thing, so that you can keep track of their business. And what you're going to be doing is doing a purchase of a it says purchase, but it's in the purchase section. It's actually tenant lease section. We did that to separate listings and purchases, or in this case, it's a purchase of a lease. It's a tenant lease that you're looking for. So you're going to click on that, and then that will be bringing up, and my sections are just out of line there, but the forms and preloaded forms will be in that package. So here's all the forms that are in the tenant lease package in web forms, right? Essentially, if you follow these forms in the process, you will not, you'll not be missing anything. Okay. The only thing, I think actually it's in there as well, is the standard form lease, the Ontario standard form lease as well. And they do have that in there. So that should be part of the package. If it's not, it's also in web forms, and we can add that. I just don't see it necessarily right here. They have now put that in web forms, so that's a new feature. When you do open up the agreement to lease, we do have the standard lease clauses already in there for you as well. We want to make sure certain ones are in there, so we have done that. There's 2 pages. This is just one of the 2 pages. So just so you know, all your clauses that are standard are in there. Keep in mind that anything in addition to, depending on, let's say, the details of that individual deal, whether it be something specific with the house or something specific with your tenant that you're looking to do, you'll have to add. So there will be additional clauses in there, but this one will keep you right in line with what the standard is within the real estate industry. In the remarketer system, I just again wanted to point out some of the features within the contact manager. When you're in remarketer, you're going to add that person to your contact manager. And there's certain things that I just suggest you do. One of them is to add a tag and call them a tenant. And that way, under your tags or under your organization of your client, you can always search for your tenants and then send them good information, maybe once a quarter, or as things come up in the market of changes to the Landlord Tenant Act. It could be things about home ownership. So that's, to get them into purchasing a home. This is a great organized way to do that. And of course, as well, on top of that, sending a newsletter every single month. So within the remarketer system, under the brokerage hub, there's the Spotlight print newsletters. Just click on there and you'll be signing up for a Spotlight print newsletter. And again, in order to send these newsletters out, you just tag your client with Spotlight print as the tag. And then we'll go in and send a newsletter out every single month for you. It's just an automated system. It's something, a newsletter that I had in my business when I sold every single year. 100 of my contacts always received a newsletter. And that, of course, attributed to a couple $100,000 in sales every year. Okay, so the big meat and potatoes of dealing with tenants is, of course, sitting down with them and going through the process of putting together and finding a place for them. And it's very important that they understand the process and that you're organized with them, because when they do find a place they want to put an offer on, you need to be ready. They need to be ready. And it's tough out there right now. There's not a ton and what is out there has gone up a lot in price. So you're almost in multiples every time when you're representing tenants sometimes as well. So being prepared will ensure that the tenant gets in there, they get a great place, and that you're not continuously taking them to places, putting in offers for a lease and never getting it. So now we're sitting down with a tenant. They called you, they said, listen, I got to find a lease. It's for my family. And say, come on into the office or sit down, we'll go for a coffee or come to the house, whatnot. social distance, all the rest. But you're going to sit down with them, and I'm going to go through what I built out for a tenant presentation. You may want to add slides. You may want to take slides out. You may want to change things around. But essentially, anytime that I sat down with a client, whether it be buy, sell, lease, taking them through the process and having an organized way to do it is great. And I don't know if anybody can see me, if everybody can see me, but there's a version, right, that you can print, right? So this is something that is in our drive. Again, if in Remarketer you click on our drive, you can find it in our marketing pieces. So in a marketing section folder in the drive, there's tenant presentations, and this is available to all of you. Okay, and you can customize it. You can have it built out for you specifically printed as well on your laptop. Okay, you're going to fill it in with your information. So you're going to put your name. You're going to put a picture of yourself and just kind of give them an overview of who you are. And then just like I mean, if you've ever watched any of my, buying presentations, listing presentations, it's the same idea. We want to tell them a little bit about our company, about our brand, and why we're here for them. You're going to let them know, of course, how big the company is. It's a global company, and just tell them a little bit about Century 21 and tell them about your commitment, right? I'm here to provide the knowledge and guidance in the rental process. I'm 24/7. Make sure you call me anytime if you have any questions. I have the latest online technology. We're going to find what you're looking for. We have a great system with our MLS system, as well as something called Collaborate. You can search for leases, and we'll be able to find something for you. But I'm here to represent you, but also to provide you with information to get away from any legal risks, right? There's a big one with renting, and that's making sure that it's safe for you to live in where you're going to be renting. If it's a basement apartment, is it legalized, etc. To establish a long-term relationship. The reason why I do rentals is because I want to build relationships. It's not for the paycheck, unfortunately, in this one, and that's okay. I want you to know that I'm going to do this for you, and I really want you to understand that I'm doing this because I want to impress you. I want you to be in a great place, and then if you're ever going to purchase one day, to give me a call. My business is built on purchase and sales. So if you do know anybody who's looking to buy and sell, please let them know about me. I really appreciate it. Okay, so you've built that foundational information for them, that they know why you're doing it. They know that you're going to do a great job for them and that you're here for them. And then give some information. I'm going to go through what the law is with residential tenancy. This is taken straight from the website, the Ontario website. So I'm going to give you that link a little later, but you're going to go through this with you and understand that there are things that protects the tenant, and anything that is written in the contract that we're going to do up, the law supersedes it. So even if in order to get that property, the landlord says, sorry, no pets, and you happen to have a little dog, well, they're not allowed to actually deny you based on the fact that you have a pet. So we can, protect you and make sure, but they, there are ways that we can still get you into properties, okay, to make sure that, the landlords aren't just denying you because of things that are, not, let's say, not legal, okay? So you go through that with them. Just give me a second to, there we go. What the landlord has the right to do in terms of collecting rent and increasing the rent, and something just came out recently about increase of rent for next year. So they're not allowing the typical 2% increase next year, I believe, is what I heard yesterday. So I have to stay up with some of the current landlord tenant rules, and we have well, Beta came in, she was doing a presentation for us a couple of weeks ago with regards to landlord tenant rules, and that's available on our YouTube channel as well. So if you really want to get into some of the details of the changing of the act, that was a good one. And she's available to contact at any time. She's a paralegal that deals strictly with tenant and landlord issues. So we have some good support legally for that as well. So what the landlord's responsible for, what your landlord is not allowed to do, these are things that you want to educate them. This comes straight from, actually, in web forms. If you were to print off the handbook for tenants, this comes straight from that. So you can also provide them that with that handbook, which every landlord is supposed to provide to their tenant. And there's some information. You can always contact the landlord tenant board at any point in time. They can go to their website as well. And again, I have a little extra clickable link that we can have a look at for more information directly from the landlord tenant board. And I want to bring this up right now because I think it's really important when you're sitting down with them, you understand that there is a time where you're providing service with regards to landlord tenant, finding them a place, and there's times where you're not providing a service. And the phone call you get from your tenant, halfway through their lease and start asking you legal questions about what the landlord can and cannot do, you are no longer providing them with representation. Your job as a real estate agent is to provide them with a service to find them a place to live. It is not to give legal advice. And we cross that line from time to time, and you have to be careful not to. So often when people do call us as managers and ask for these type of legal information, we're not trying to push it away and say, you know what, I can't really comment on that because it's a legal issue. And sometimes it's frustrating because you need a legal opinion, but we're not lawyers and we're not providing that type of service. So you have to be very careful. And in any advice that you give a landlord or tenant, other than finding them the right place and negotiating the deal during the term at which you are signed up on your contract, which is the landlord and tenant representation that you would be signing them to. So be careful with that. And if you need to contact the landlord tenant board or have them do that, it's here as well. We do have resources for paralegals that's what they do, right? They provide that service. And like I mentioned before, Stonegate Legal Services with Beta, she's the one that did that presentation, and that's available with her information on YouTube. So it's really important you kind of explain that to them. The presentation includes some questions, and these are the best questions, obviously, to ask your tenant to make sure that you're finding them the right place and making sure that we have an obligation representing a tenant to provide them with the same services we do buyers. We do have to do everything we can to find them with the proper accommodations. So asking these questions are important. Are you currently renting? Do you have a lease? When does your lease term end? You need to know how to get them out of the place that they're in properly. So obviously they can move into the place that they're going to be in. Who will be on the lease, right? So we need to know the people that will be staying there, because there will be a rental application. We need to have everybody on there. And of course, if you're putting together a lease, do you want to put the one person on the lease or two, the actual agreement, right? Have you done a credit check for any of the signers? So anybody who's signing the lease, you're going to need to have a credit check ready. Okay, there are different ways you can do it. You can, and I'm going to actually get to that slide as well, but essentially you can get them to go onto Equifax and provide that for you. So they'll fill it in and print it off and give it to you. We can also give them to Centum, one of our Centum reps at one of your offices. Any one of our offices has a Centum rep, and they could do that for you. There could be a fee, maybe if you've done business with that Centum rep before and you have a good relationship, maybe they won't charge you, but there is a fee for them. So, just be aware of, there might be, it's, $20 or something like that. So it's not a big fee, but it's important that they do obviously have a credit check done and ready, because that is something that the landlord is going to ask for. Can you access the funds quickly to cover first and last month's rent? So as we put an offer in, you're going to need to have first and last, right? For deposit. That's typical. So having that ready and asking them where it's coming from. If credit or income statements are, would you consider a prepayment of additional month's rent? Now you can, this is one of the rules, and you can have this conversation with your tenant, is the landlord's not allowed to demand prepayment of rent or post-dated checks. But if you offer that as an incentive because maybe your credit isn't great, or maybe your income doesn't qualify for, isn't great, then you can say, listen, I'll tell you what, I'll pay a year up front. So you're allowed to do that and offer it. So that's a question that you should consider if some of that stuff is an issue. Obviously, do you need access to, public transportation, schools, shopping? In a condominium, would no pets allowed be a restriction? That's the only place that they can restrict pets, is if it's in the condominium rules. So that has to be figured out. Parking, locker, that sort of stuff. Again, same sort of stigma stuff. If you're in a rental and you put somebody in a rental, but somebody, let's say, committed suicide in the house, is that going to bother you? Because if you are renting in there and get in there and prepaid for a whole year's rent and find out that happened, and that's something that really bothered your tenant, maybe that's something you should still ask for, right? It's not just a purchase. This is where people are renting and staying, and they have a legal obligation to stay there a year. Therefore, it's up to you to find out if this is a problem. Or would you like help preparing to purchase a house in the future? Now, we're going to talk about this a few times, and having that conversation opens up everything as to where they are in finances and life in order to get them ready for home ownership. If they want to purchase one day, then you're here to help. So we'll talk about that in a bit. And then the haves and have-nots, and that's the next slide here, is just going through and finding out what it is that they really need to have. And this is just a good checklist, right? So to go through, is it a detached home? Is it a townhouse? How many bedrooms, bathrooms? What's important to them, right? So having them fill this in will help you find the right house for them. The rental application, you should do it right away. Have it ready. Don't do it the day you want to put an offer in on something, because they may not be available with all the information quickly. And the way that rentals go right now, the speed is a huge issue. You need to get this done right up front. So have the rental application ready for them and have them fill this in. So the Centum or Equifax is the two areas to get a credit check done. You can do TransUnion. It's not quite as Canadianized. It doesn't have as much information, but I guess if Equifax doesn't work and TransUnion is available, it's another one. But I stick with Equifax because it is more readily used in Canada. So that's probably a good idea. There are government programs for first-time home buying, and I like to go over it with them, because sometimes, to get them ready for a house purchase, it's probably a good idea to talk about this. And they may say, no, I'm renting forever. I won't even be purchased. So you just skip through the slide. But I think it's important for them to know that there is help out there in order to purchase. There's even one that's not on here that's very new, and it's with regards to a down payment. So it's like the government has equity in your home project that they have. It's you can borrow your down payment up to a percentage, 10%. I think it's 10 or 5 or 10%. You have to look into it with regards to having a down payment. If they can qualify because they have a good job, but they just don't have the money, that might be something to think about. Because I think it's up to 10%, and then the government will get the increase of value along with you, but up to 10%. So they sort of own 10% of the value of your home, essentially. So that's another option as well. So now helping them find the home, they may be looking on realtor.ca, they may be looking on different sites. We can provide them with Collaborate. If you don't know how to use Collaborate, Treb provides courses. We have courses on YouTube. It's a good portal for agents to give to their clients, so you can help search for properties. And leases are available on there as well. So I kind of get them set up on that, and that they get real-time notice as soon as something hits the market on the Toronto Real Estate Board system. So offer time. So it's ready to put an offer in on the property. You've shown them properties. You got them. You've got them speaking. Obviously, their application filled out. You've got their credit check. We're going to go through different rental rates in the area. Make sure that they're offering a competitive rate and what we should go in terms of an offer. So you're going to prepare that offer to lease with those conditions on credit check and different things that you're going to do to protect them. It's really important to present your application and the offer in the best light. So having everything that was pre-done when you sat down and go through, as we're doing now, ahead of time, along with a deposit check and everything that you can do. As you know, it's a lot like presenting multiple offers. You need to get them into, if they're a great credit and great everything, maybe you can be negotiable on price, but we have now 48 people on the line, and I would love to know the percentage of people that put offers for a lease that didn't just pay full price or more in some situations, because right now it's tough to get into the leases, and sometimes they're negotiable, but a lot of times they're. So you have to manage your expectations, and markets can change. In the spring, you never know. You might be, offering $200 less a month and they'll accept it. You just never know where that market is. But you have to let your tenant know where the market is, because they will not have a clue, right? They're not going to know whether or not to offer them full price or $500 less a month. So you got to provide them with some knowledge there. So in that package that you're going to provide, it's going to be the offer to lease, a credit check, an application, and possibly some other things like, for example, first and last, maybe in a draft. Seeing that money in hand along with an offer always can help win them over. So the best light, right? I talked to an agent, not with us, it was from another company the other day, and it was for actually a purchase. No, it was for a purchase, and they had said the only thing I can say, that's really helping my clients is that they're a young couple and they really, really want the house. I mean, she did not present that offer in a good light. Essentially she was, just saying, my people are shaky, but, and they got pets and they got this and they got that. And I know they smoke, and like, you obviously don't want to present it in a bad light. You want to say, my people are, find out the great thing about your people, right? They've got great jobs. They've been there for 10 years, lovely kids, and et cetera, nice family. So obviously when you're presenting that offer, you're going to do that in a nice light, right? Handwritten, or maybe not handwritten, but even typed up note from your client would be a good idea, just saying how much they love the place and how much they want it. I mean, bridging that gap with regards to, sorry, let's go back. There we go. Bridging that gap between getting them, the personality accepted by the landlord. The landlord's scared these days. Landlords are scared. They want to invest. They want to have a house. They want to rent it out, but they've been told all these horror stories about tenants. So you have to put them at ease and present it really professional. That's the main reason why we actually provide services for tenant and landlords, is because they're scared. Landlords are scared, and tenants are, it's tough to find a place. So if you have a real estate agent working for you, that chance of getting a good place and it's professional and all heads are level and, everything goes smoothly is much higher, obviously, if you're not, or if you're using a real estate agent, right? Okay. Just going on to the next slide as soon as it turns. Sorry, my keyboard doesn't like to connect. There we go. Okay, so when you are done, and I think everybody is now up to speed on a standard form lease, but I'm going to go over it anyway. The standard form lease is not to renegotiate terms, okay? It's required by the Ontario government now so that there's some consistency as to what's being disclosed and signed when a lease is done. They want to make sure that they figured in the past, all these deals that were happening with regards to leases were, any of the problems they were finding at the landlord-tenant board were a lot of communication issues. The tenants weren't aware of the rules. Landlords weren't aware of the rules. So the standard form lease goes through those rules and makes sure that everybody's above board. So when you do the standard form lease, after you've had an accepted offer to lease, you're going to be attaching the offer to lease just as the schedule to the standard form lease. So standard form lease is, here's all the details of how much and how often and what the lease is, and then here's all the clauses that we want to make sure everybody is taken care of with regards to the negotiation part. So that's signed and put together after the agreement agreement to lease. Okay, so I explained that to the tenants that they'll be signing a standard form lease, and we'll be attaching as a schedule the actual agreement that we've negotiated. And if you have any questions on that, I can go through that with you as well. Just going to, there is a delay on my slides, so just give it a second. There we go. Okay, so Heritage Concierge, when we are done standard form lease and done everything's handed into the office, we have a moving service. This is for all purchases, sales, leases. Okay, so in Remarketer, you click on the Heritage Concierge by MoveSnap. MoveSnap's the portal that we do this through. We will, as representing a tenant, you need to log in to fill this in. We are going to do some more automation with it. All our sales and purchases are automated, but our leases are not. There's a reason for it, and we're just technology-wise, we're going to get to the point where we can actually automate all of them, including leases. But for now, you'll actually log in and invite them yourself. So you just have to make sure that you send out that invite. This will help them, and this will provide an additional service that really, really creates advocates and helps you with referrals. So essentially you're helping them move. It changes their addresses, it hooks up utilities, it tells you all the places to go to have all that done. You can book a moving van, that sort of stuff. So that's Heritage Concierge, and I explained that to them as well. And again, I'm going to get a new keyboard any day now. Okay, moving on, move-in day. So when you do move in to the house, you're going to meet at the property. We're going to hand over the keys, and at that point in time, there's going to be some stuff, and it's not conditions in the offer, but it's requirements in the offer for you to provide insurance proof, utility changeover. You know, you should picture and video and document the condition of the property. It's a good idea for your security. I remember years ago, we're talking over 15 years ago, my sister and brother-in-law rented a place. It was like 20, 25 years ago. It's probably longer. Anyway, they rented a place, and they did have pets, and it was okay. But when they left, they tried to stick them with a bill to actually have all the carpets replaced because of their dog. And so pictures and conditions, they were able to, you know, prove that they didn't wreck the carpet, right? So this is a good, you know, thing to do. Test all the included appliances that they put in the lease, make sure it works, so they don't blame you if something had broken before you moved in. You know, these are things that, you know, it's a good service. Maybe stop in and you know, congratulate them just like you would if they purchased a place. Remember, this is a new place for them. They're just as excited moving into a rental as they could be moving into their purchased home. So, you know, celebrate with them. You're looking obviously to make sure that they're happy. And next slide, as soon as it comes up. Did you know? Okay, so here's some stuff that did you know, some of the things that maybe tenants don't know, right? After the first term of the lease, all leases automatically go month to month. So they often get tricked by the landlord to sign them up for another year. So, you know, if they're looking, for example, to purchase a house, make sure you let them know ahead of time. If the landlord comes to you a year from now and says, sign a new lease, you don't have to. You can still continue going through the process of just month-to-month leasing with them. And that way, if you want to buy a property, you can give them 2 months notice and buy the property and move out. Okay. You are responsible for the term of the lease. Breaking the lease could result in legal liability. A lot of people think, yeah, tenants have all the rights. Well, not all the rights, right? So if you sign a lease with somebody for a year, then you have a year commitment. The landlord could come after you if they can't release it out for damages because you broke the lease. So make sure that they know that. Yeah, again, homeownership could close you to think. Again, I bring that up. Have you spoken to the mortgage specialist? And if this is something you've already brought up, you just skip through. Landlord can't control who stays in the home. They do have the right to know who's living there, though. So if they ask, for a list of the people that's living in the home, you provide them the list of the people that are there. But if you bring in a tenant or let's say somebody to stay in one of the rooms or whatever, I mean, you're allowed to, they can't limit you from having more than 4 people stay there. Now, what can limit you is obviously if you have 3 families staying there and there's a health concern or a safety concern with regards to municipal bylaws. I mean, that's where you do run into those problems. But for the most part, let's say a single person moves into the house, they go on the lease and get a boyfriend or girlfriend and they move in. Landlord can't come and say, no, they have to go on the lease and stuff. So again, seek legal advice if they run into any of those problems, but they don't have the right to say, yeah, you can't have somebody stay over, right? If you're looking for more information about some of these did you know stuff, the tribunalontario.ca. So it's tribunalsontario.ca, and then LTB, Help for Tenants. So that their Landlord Tenant Board is what LTB stands for. And you just click on that. There's some good resources there for the right forms to fill in and all this sort of stuff for tenants if there's any issues. My home purchase program would be to get you in touch with my financial planner or mortgage specialist that I have in my arsenal to help you get to that next level of home ownership. Credit monitoring, making sure that you do have like Equifax for $29. We'll monitor your credit and tell you every month how you're doing. If something affects it negatively, because you can jump on it quickly, so it doesn't make a big difference. So that will help. And then a year from now, if you don't mind, I'd love to follow up with you and see where you're at. And we'll do a 1-year review with the mortgage specialist just to see if you're any that closer to home ownership. And then we do have, of course, all of our discounts and whatnot with the brick and some appliances and moving companies and painting companies and stuff like that. So we have that available too. And that is the tenant presentation I take people through. Now, if you go through this whole presentation and they're not ready to go, I'd be very surprised, right? You've spent an hour or two with them. You've got everything going with their application. You've got your credit check. You have access to all the forms and everything through web forms. And you're more than once did I bring up the fact that, yeah, you know what, we want to get you purchasing a house or just staying in contact. And if you love my service, I'm just hoping, you mention it to others and just having that, because it will build your business. We have people making over $200,000 that started over 5 years ago with us. And the first year, all they did was leases. That's all they did. And I sat down with them. I remember a couple that were doing it, and they did 15 leases in the first year, made about $15,000 or $20,000. And because of the systems we put in place, the next few years, within 2 years, I think at least one of them was a Centurion. And if not both of them eventually become Centurions because of the service they provided. They were here all the time. They worked on their business. They sent their newsletters. They reminded people they're in the business. They provided great service. And that's how you build a good business working with tenants.